Welcome back to the Driven by Us podcast, where we spotlight individuals who are driving progress in motorsports and beyond, quite literally in today's case. I'm your host, Debbie Nakakande, and I'm so excited about today's guest. He is someone who truly embodies high performance, whether that's working with some of the biggest name in motorsports or within Formula One, or spinning decks on the weekend. Yes, we're talking motorsports and music. Billy Jeans, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I'm very well, and I appreciate it's been a long time. We've been overdue this podcast, so I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no. So is it Billy Jeans or is it Billy the Engineer? Which one should I call you?
It depends. The Billy the Engineer thing came about in a funny way. So the fact you bring that up is comical. So you know Fumes the Engineer?
Yeah.
Fumes the Engineer. So like the producer. So I used to produce music as well when I was younger, and I worked in recording studios and doing all like I was completely immersed in music when I was younger.
Yeah.
And even Formula One wasn't even a consideration until university, and then obviously audio engineering and doing all that kind of stuff. And then when I moved into automotive and motorsport engineering, we were just joking. I think we were just joking about Instagram names, and I just thought, Billy the Engineer, it kind of works out. So I took that. But yeah, Billy Jeans, Billy the Engineer, whatever you like. I'm easy.
It makes sense and applies to like your role today.
Yeah.
So growing up, music, I'm assuming, was your passion.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
So I played the piano and the drums for about 12 years, probably. So
wow.
Yeah, I did jazz piano up until grade 6, I think, and then I did like the drums like piano. Now, if you put me on a piano, don't think I'd be very good.
Really?
But if you put me on a drum kit, I'd be acceptable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I ended up doing like Brazilian samba, and so I toured Austria and Spain as a 16 and 17-year-old playing Brazilian samba with a steel pan band as well, and carnivals all around the world, I guess. And in the UK, I played in Notting Hill Carnival. Brazilian samba, which is it's a
that's
niche.
Iconic.
Yeah, it's a niche. I've got some photos that one day you might see of me dressed up in like full costume with a drum in my hands. Yeah. So yeah, music for ages, and it was probably only around university that I really, well, maybe a bit earlier, that I kind of leaned into engineering a lot more.
Yeah. So when you were, in school, was motorsports an option for you, or a career that you even knew existed? What was that change between music and motorsports?
That's a good question. I didn't really know about motorsports at all. Like, no one in my family watched motorsports. I'd never watched a Formula One race until I started working in Formula One. Never.
That's crazy.
Never a MotoGP race. I vaguely remember maybe once at my friend's house that his dad was watching MotoGP, and I was like, oh, there's some vehicles going in circles. Cool.
Nice.
I just thought nothing of it, nothing at all. And then, it was, the engineering aspect, I guess, came from my uncle, I would say. So he was an electrical engineer also.
Nice.
And he got me like a soldering kit that you can put components together on a PCB, solder some components. And I was like, this is awesome. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And when I was doing music as well, when I was younger, so I bought myself some turntables and I was learning to DJ. And I bought some Technics 1210s. If you know about DJing, you know what they are.
Yeah.
And they had these small LEDs just to light up the vinyl platter. And I thought, oh, how cool would it be if they were pink instead? And so I kind of soldered in the circuit to turn them from a small bulb into an LED, and kind of got into it through all of that. And then the motorsport love, I guess, came from probably, so my cousin at the time, my cousin at the time, her boyfriend was riding motorbikes, and he had a Ninja 600. And I met this guy. I idolized him. I was like, "What? This man is amazing. He's so cool." He was massive hench guy riding a motorbike, and I just thought I want to be like this guy. And I started saving up for a motorbike. And motorcycles were I was the first person in my family to ride a motorbike. That was my first introduction to not even motorsport, but like fast things.
Yeah, fast cars.
That was it.
Oh my god! And are you riding now?
I still ride motorbikes. I'd sadly just sold a GSX 1000. With like carbon fiber wheels, full titanium exhaust. It used to spit flames. Oh, it was good fun.
Flames.
Yeah. It was very easy to get into a lot of trouble, but it was an awesome bike. But I sold that to get a car that I wanted. So
yeah, the car's very nice.
Thank you. I've got a Mustang, which is brilliant. Very cool.
So you didn't know that you wanted to go into kind of motorsports. Was it only when you were applying to university that you were like, actually, this could be an option for me?
It was even later than that. So
really?
So my school journey, I was in normal state school. I went to Pimlico School, or Pimlico Academy now. in Pimlico in London. And it was my final year of college that I managed to get a scholarship to a private school just next to Hyde Park. Yeah, it was bougie, nice, really nice school. And it was completely like, I did not come from a place of money, and it was not something that my family could afford at all. I was really fortunate to, a bit of a long story, which I won't go into, but I essentially got a full scholarship for 1 year.
That's incredible.
Which was awesome, and it really, really helped me. And if anything, it frustrated me slightly because I was frustrated that the quality of schooling was so good.
Yeah.
In a format that was only accessible to people with a lot of disposable income, or who prioritized that, right? That was frustrating, but nevertheless, it did personally benefit me, so that was fantastic. And through there, I got AEBB, 4 marks away from AAA, still bitter. And then so I got into uni. I applied to Imperial, UCL, and another big boy, hard hitter engineering, and missed all of them because they wanted AAA, because I was predicted AAAs.
Wow. What did you study at sixth form?
So it was physics, maths, and further maths. And then when I went into this college, they didn't do. I think I swapped the further maths for a design technology course.
Yeah.
So my final A levels, like the 3 that I had, were maths, physics, and design technology. Then went into Brunel University. Eventually I got in through clearing. So if you don't get your grades and you go in through clearing and you're having a traumatic experience, don't worry.
We can all relate.
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. So I got into Brunel through clearing. They had a project on an electric motorcycle for the Isle of Man TT. So if you know about motorcycling, you might have heard of the Isle of Man TT.
Yeah.
It's one of the most dangerous road races in the world. It's an experience. It's amazing. Like it's around the Isle of Man. I can't remember exactly. It's about 37.3 miles long. Don't quote me on that. It's a really long race. And you can, as a bystander, someone watching the race, you can turn up to the Isle of Man and you can sit next to a brick wall and lean your head out and be about 2 inches from a rider coming past you at 180 miles an hour.
Why?
Yeah, it's that the fact that it still exists today in an age where we're so much more conscious of health and safety is phenomenal. It's an experience. It's amazing. So I digress. They had a electric motorcycle for that, and I was just going through uni, no cares in the world, just my exams, and I saw a poster on the wall for this Isle of Man TT bike, and I thought, this is really cool. I do electronics, I like electronics, and I ride motorbikes. Let me go and have a look. So I turned up. There's a guy, Rob Driver, who was running the project at the time. He was the technician in charge of the lab, and I presented myself. I said, I'm Billy, I'm really interested in this project. I've done electronics. Can I get involved? And I think the first year I ended up working on their battery management system. And it was a very student project. Like looking back now, I'm like, how did we even get a lap in? Yeah, it was very dodgy. Not dodgy, but the quality of engineering was what you'd expect from students, right? But it was incredible. So I was involved with that for years.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah. And that was my first real taste of motorsport.
Like on site, on track.
Yeah, exactly. Hands on, like we were working on the bike. I remember one time I turned up for university and I was in the lab. This must have been like the days leading up to us leaving.
Yeah.
Turned up at 8 a.m, left the next morning at 9 a.m.
Oh my God.
And now we were there for like 24 hours. But it was awesome, that project. I was such a passion project for me.
Yeah.
I loved it so much, yeah.
Oh, I can absolutely love that. And so you did the electronic TT0 project as well.
Electric TT0.
Brunel Racing.
Yeah.
And Formula Student.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Talk to me about that.
So it basically all stemmed from me being involved in the Isle of Man TT0 project because they were all working out of the same lab. So you go into the lab, you see the Isle of Man TT bike with its batteries and photos around it on the side, and then to the left of it, you got the Formula Student car. And so Brunel University just had a standard combustion engine, like petrol Formula Student car from a Yamaha R6 engine, which was quite common. Yeah. And they did reasonably well in competitions. And I wasn't massively involved with that, and I was just kind of electronic support after a couple of years of the TT bike because they recognised me as, a familiar face, let's be completely honest, and also someone who knew what they were doing. And so I was involved with that project a bit more. And then towards the end, my final year project in university was starting the development of turning that car into electric. And that's so amazing. I did, So they got me to run the team, and I worked with these group of 5 girls. I was the only guy. The 5 girls were brilliant, really, really good.
Yeah.
They were all Malaysian girls who were studying internationally. They were so good, and one of them was off doing motor control. One was looking like chassis dynamics. I can't remember what the others were doing. And then every week we'd meet, and they were just on job. It was awesome. And I was doing the battery, so I had to design a battery pack, and I specifically did it in a modular way so it could be used for other projects to deliver the power that we needed for forming a student within the rule set. And as efficiently as possible. It was,
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. Uni was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, uni was good.
So how did that then shape, or what did you learn from like doing those projects that you kind of implemented in, I guess, moving forward or as you left university?
I think it's probably, I mean, in a soft skills way, it's when you work with other people who are not, well, they're not you.
Yeah.
And they're doing different things to what you do. You're forced to communicate in a way that still achieves an end goal, right? You all want to achieve the same thing, hopefully. Yeah. And unless you're doing a university project where there's one kid who just never turns up and just takes all the credit. Yeah, we've all been there. But generally, like when it's when something you're passionate about, you all want to achieve the same thing. And you all might have slightly different ways of wanting to get there. And one necessarily isn't better. It's just what will work for you. And it's about communication. And I believe that sentence, it's about communication in most things in life.
Yeah.
Communication is key, but more so when you're working with a group of eclectic people from different backgrounds who are studying different things, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. You might have someone who studied business and finance working on the marketing team, and you all want to achieve the same thing. So being able to communicate and understand the strengths of having people from other backgrounds is critical. I think that's really critical. And I think there's a huge strength in diversity. And that's not necessarily just the kind of, diversity in all types, not just in gender or race or all that. I mean, just in different backgrounds. Like a mechanical engineer will provide huge value to a project that I'm working on that I couldn't comprehend. And I hopefully will do the same for them. Coming from a different background. It's
diversity of thought, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
I think that is the exact phrase I would use. I think that's spot on. Yeah.
I think that's key in like any industry.
Yeah, 100%.
Outside of motorsports, and a key skill that you learn, will have to learn very early on, I think.
100%. 100%.
To survive.
Yeah.
So you must have had some great mentors, I hope, and still do. Can you share a little bit about how mentorship shaped your journey?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I think with me and mentors, it's probably not like the standard. Yeah, I had this person who I really looked up to, and they did it all, like helped me out. I don't think I had specific mentors, I would say, but more I just found people around me who would help me in certain ways, and just as a collective, they were my mentor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Rob Driver earlier, the guy who was running the lab as a technician. He was my mentor when it came to hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
So I used to work part-time as a mechanic as well while I was at university, and a chef before that, and I was always good with my hands and done a lot. I know I've been working since I was 14. I've done a lot, but I was always good with my hands. But he really helped me. Like he taught me how to make wiring looms, for example, and that was really beneficial. And I mean, a lot of people added value to me as a person, I think, in a way. And there wasn't one specific mentor I could put my finger on, but there were a lot of people who really helped me. And that wasn't just people at my university, that was friends as well, who I recognized who supported me and who wanted me to succeed. And I would hang around them more, and I try and do the same for all of them, right? So I don't think it was, there is a mentor, or I have exactly mentor A, B, and C, but there were definitely people. Like when I was in secondary school, there was Miss Moraine. She was incredible teacher. Yeah. And she wasn't even a teacher. I can't remember what she did, but I only met her because I was getting in trouble quite a lot in secondary school. Yeah, I very nearly got excluded from my secondary school. God. It was suboptimal. But she recognized me as a student who she felt had potential. And she came to me I was at a parents' evening. As usual, parents' evening for me was just sitting in front of my mum, getting told by my teacher why I should be doing better, why I shouldn't be distracting people, why I shouldn't be talking. It felt, at least to me, my memories, is always a very negative experience. Yeah. And Miss Moraine came to me, and I don't know how she knew who I was, but she came to me and she said, "Hey, do you want to come to summer school?" And I was like, "No, I'm not a neek. I don't want to do that." I was my immediate reaction was like, "No, I don't. No. That's for losers. I don't want to do that." She said to me, "If you come to summer school every day and you're on time every day, I'll give you an iPod Touch." And you're saying this to like a 16-year-old, or I can't remember how old it was. Let's say 16, 17, something like that. I was like, yeah,
okay,
let's do it. Let's go. Every day I came into summer school, 15 minutes early. I knocked on her door. I said, "Miss Moraine, I'm here. I'm here, by the way. I'm here today and I'm early. I'll see you in a bit." And there was one day she wasn't in, and I got one of the other teachers like, "Tell Miss Moraine I was here." And she reminded me of that like months later, and I got my iPod Touch.
Did you?
But yeah, that woman was hugely impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah. She found what it took for me to be motivated.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I always feel like you all have I guess you will have that one person, whether it's a teacher, whether it's someone, you just need someone to believe in you.
Yeah,
right?
big time.
Believe that you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. I love that.
I think it takes a lot for you to believe in yourself, you know, a lot. And confidence is something that I guess I feel quite fortunate. I'm quite a confident person just from all the things that happened in my life, but a lot of people aren't. And for you to believe in yourself is arguably for a lot of people one of the most difficult things you can do, but it's also maybe not the first step, but it's the step that unlocks your kind of like your infinite possibilities. Is believing in yourself. God, that sounds so like inspirational, and
but it's true.
so I so strongly believe it. I so
Sometimes
strongly
you don't recognize your skills. It takes that one person to be like, I actually think you'd be really good at doing this.
Agreed. I mean, like with my DJing now, I've seen so many DJs who've been DJing for such a short amount of time and have done so well with it, and I've always, you know, just out of curiosity, how did you start? And they say, oh, my friend thought I was quite good, and so I just jumped on. And now they're, you know, they're doing awesome things. I've got a friend of mine who's DJing tomorrow with Rosie Gold at a Piano People event.
Oh wow!
And and she's been looking up to her for ages. And if she ever watches this, she'll be like, oh, I didn't know you rated me like that. But no, I really rate her as a DJ. And I remember talking with her a while ago, and she got into it, I think, through friends. And it's just one of those things where if you have people around you who recognise you're talented or you're good at something, then that's half the journey. That's half the steps to succeeding.
Shout out to Miss Moran.
Yeah. Miss Green, yeah, she was awesome. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she's cool. I hopefully we're gonna go to a youth centre that she's working in now at some point.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, to go and do a talk.
No, please do.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it happen. Yeah.
You went from university projects to working to championship winning Formula One engines.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
when you say like that, it's like whoa,
it is
crazy. But to me, it's like I did. Yeah. But that's wow.
Huge.
No, you're right.
Tell us about how the opportunity with Mercedes came around.
Yeah, that was a funny one. So I was working on these electric motorbikes. I was loving it. I had no idea what I was going to do when I was older. I knew I wanted to be an engineer because I enjoyed it. And for me, if you enjoy work, it's not work. Everyone says that, and maybe it's not quite as black and white, but if you enjoy work, I think that's really important. You know, we spend most of our lives working. Most people do. And I wasn't going to do an internship while I was at uni. I just wanted to be honest, I thought to myself, I've been in education a long time and I'm ready to stop. I'm ready to just go work in the real world. I want to do something. But we had a talk from, I can't remember the guy's name, we had a talk from a guy to try and convince us to do internships. And he gave a talk to a lecture room full of us, basically saying what was available and what he'd done. And he worked for TfL. He was saying, I did all these internships. I worked for TfL as a rail engineer and some cool stuff about that. And at the end of his talk, he said, there's loads of opportunities available. For example, Mercedes Formula One. I applied for that, but I didn't get the job. And I thought, I'm gonna get that job.
No.
I thought I'm gonna get that job. And it wouldn't be a cool story if I didn't, right? It would be. I would have forgotten about it. But I remember that so vividly. I thought I'm gonna make that happen. I'm gonna get that job. So I applied for 2 places. I applied for Triumph Motorcycles because I was riding motorbikes and it's cool.
Makes sense,
And then I applied for Mercedes. Well, it was Mercedes AMG High Performance Powertrains, so the engine supplier, Mercedes engines. And I didn't get the role at Triumph.
Okay.
And then I went for an open day at Mercedes, and I didn't get the role for Mercedes. And so you don't know about these details. I didn't get the role for Mercedes, and I thought, damn, no stress, no hard feelings. I'm going to carry on. That was my objective anyway.
Yeah.
A few days later, I get a call from someone called Dave Jones.
Okay.
So he calls me up. He says, hey, it's Dave Jones. And my first thought was, that's a fake name. Like, that's not a real name.
Not a real person.
That's like Sam Smith. You know what I mean? It's just it's like
John Doe.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Dave Jones, that's not real. And actually, big up Dave Jones because he's probably one of the people I would list as a big like impact on me. So I say, it's Billy. Like, what's up? And he says, oh, so you had an interview recently at Mercedes, and we really liked you, but obviously you didn't get the role in electrical. So I applied for a role in electrical engineering in the design team. He said, but we recognise you're really good with your hands. And like I mentioned earlier, that I'd been working as a mechanic part-time at uni and as a chef or in a kitchen since I was 14 as a chef for a little bit and always doing projects at home. So I had good hands-on experience. He said, we'd really like to come back for another interview, but for this time round, we'd like you to essentially be applying for a job in the ERS build, so Energy Recovery Systems build department. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So I went back to Mercedes for another interview, and it was an intense interview. So
really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was shaking. I was so scared. They put in front of me this box, right? This small box. You couldn't see what was inside it. These 2 guys interviewed me, Rob Yates and Dave Jones, sitting in front of me. And they say, we do all the standard interview questions, you know, all the kind of soft skills stuff, which was not a problem. So we've got this box in front of you. Inside this box, some parts that we want you to assemble and the tools you need to assemble them.
Okay.
That's all we're going to tell you. Don't worry, no pressure, but we're going to time you. no pressure. We're gonna
time
right.
you.
Okay, that doesn't work, but sure.
Yeah.
So no pressure. We're gonna time you, but we want you to just take your time and just try and build what's in
Yeah.
that box. Okay, cool. So they start the timer.
Oh no.
I open the box. I look inside, and there's all these parts there. And what it was one of the high voltage 3-phase connectors, which if you look at a Mercedes engine now, like the photos they put out, the HVP engines, it's the connector that's kind of at the bottom side of the ERS pack that has the orange cables going into the engine.
Okay.
So they wanted me to build one of those. And it was quite simple. It was like 2 clamshells with an O-ring and some screws. And they wanted to recognize that, you know, I could see how it went together. I knew how to fit the O-ring. When there was 4 bolts, I was kind of conscious that there was a pattern to bolt them down to try and get the faces to meet properly and all this kind of stuff. And I did it. I can't remember the time that I did it in. I don't know if it mattered. I don't know. But I did it, and that felt good. And then the next day I got a call back saying, "We'd like to give you a job."
Oh my God.
And so I went and I did a job there. And then when I joined, I said, "This is awesome, but I'm studying engineering to do engineering."
Yeah.
So as much as I'm really enjoying I would love to be in build, I really want to get some time in engineering. Maybe it was 6 months down the line that I said this. I didn't come in on the first day.
Actually.
Yeah, of course not. But I had an amazing time in build. I learned so much about how to build Formula One stuff.
Yeah.
And then it ended up that Dave Jones, who was my boss, was really, really helpful, and he really wanted what I wanted. Like, he was happy to give me what I wanted. And so I ended up working for 3 months in the design department.
That's amazing.
Under a guy called Keith Ramsey, who was legend in motorsport, legend in F1. Really, really cool guy. And so yeah, I did 9 months building electronics. So every single Mercedes powered car in the 2016 season had parts built by me inside it. It was called the power box. It was basically like a power supply box
amazing.
inside the engine recovery system. Yeah, so I was super, super proud of that. I used to I don't know if they ever knew this, but inside there was a small like 3D printed part, and I used to write my name on one and then my mate's name on the other. I'd be like, right, I'd follow the serial numbers. I'd be like, okay, you're in Hamilton's car.
Yeah.
I'm in Rosberg's, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's see who wins. Like, yeah. So that was mega. So I did that, and then while I was there, so I was working in design at the end, like I said. And Keith Ramsey, my boss there, he said to me, like, it's great you're doing your bachelor's, and we do like you. We want you to come back, but you need to do your master's. So I said, okay, cool.
Okay.
So I went back to uni. I changed my degree from the bachelor's to the master's. So I went back and did 2 years at uni.
Yeah.
And then I had to apply again to Mercedes on the graduate program this time. And then I got into engineering.
Yeah.
They got me to start early working on the Formula E project. But
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
I didn't realize you started with Formula E.
Yeah, so I did a tiny bit on the Project One.
Yeah,
Sorry, I can't remember if it's an internal code or the real car. The real car's on Project One.
Yeah.
I did a tiny bit on Project One, but then mostly Formula E for a few months, which was really cool to be involved because Mercedes just joined Formula E, dominated, and then got
left.
out. It was like serious mic drop. It was really it was cool to be part of that. Really cool to be part of that. And then working on Formula One, and then I guess my main projects that I did in Formula One, which I was super proud of, were battery management again, actually. So I say again because that was my first project I did at university on the motorbike. So I did some work on the battery management system. I did quite a lot of work on what's called the power module, which, if you know electronics, it's essentially the MOSFET power module that does the switching for the motors. If you don't know electronics, it's the heart of the inverter.
Okay.
It's the heart of the part that takes the battery power and turns it into power for the motors.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so I did the design for the MGUH side of that. And then I'm trying to think what else I did that was awesome. Those were the two that I really remembered as awesome projects. Yeah.
That's amazing, Billy.
Yeah. No, it was cool. And then eventually I was talking to if you want me to keep going, I'll just keep going.
Please do.
Okay,
I think it's so fascinating.
So then after that, I was talking to a friend of mine, Rupert, who I met while I was a mechanic at uni. Really, really cool guy. We went to the Nürburgring together and did all sorts. I had some crazy summers riding motorbikes together. And he said to me, I was just on the phone to him one day. He said, "You work in Formula One. Why don't you go traveling the world?" And I thought, you know what? That's a great idea. That is a great idea. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me earlier. You know, it just didn't. And so I thought, you know what? Like, this is not just let's do it. This is something actually I think I'd be really passionate for. And you see the glitz and the glamour on TV. You know, I'd be lying if it wasn't part of me saying I want to be involved in that because it looks cool. Of course, there is an aspect of that as well. It's not. I'm not this righteous person who's like, no, I wanted to do it for the sport. No, it looked awesome. I wanted to get involved.
It still does look awesome.
100%, and it is. We'll talk about later. I'm sure more. It really is awesome. And so I recognized that all the people who were at the track were mechanical engineers, and I thought, I'm an electrical engineer. This is going to be difficult. How can I sell myself? What can I do to make it clear that I can add value to this team? So I went to the team leader of the area of the guys who were running engines on dynos, because the path to the track, at least for pretty much everyone from Formula One, as far as I'm aware, is that you do running engines.
Yeah.
Or running subsystems and testing stuff, reliability work. Then you run engines on dynos. If you don't know what a dyno is, it's like a test bed for an engine, like a rolling road for your car, but to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And then you get good at that, and then you start doing some VTCs or virtual track tests. Then you might start doing some actual track tests, some young driver tests, and then after that you can become a power unit engineer. And being on the power unit side, the power unit engineer was the goal, right? That's where I wanted to be, because that was the trackside role for someone working on power units, as far as I was concerned. And the other roles were mainly aero and chassis stuff. So it was difficult because there weren't a lot of people at the track.
No.
You know, for Mercedes, let's say they've got 4 teams. Let's say they've got 2 power unit engineers per team. That's 8 people in the world who do that job for Mercedes. So there's not a lot of people there. So it's quite difficult. So anyway, I'll go back to where I then had to sell myself. So I approached the team leader of this area, and I said, look, I really want to go racing. I really want to work on your team. I want to provide value to you. You don't have any electrical engineers in your team. And I recognize that every single time you have a fault with a power unit that's electrical related, you come to our team and you come and get help. If I work in your team, your help will be there for you all the time whenever you need it. And in return, you can teach me how to run engines. And he said, yeah, it sounds good. Sounds really good. And so I then spoke, I spoke to, there was a guy, Barney Sleep, who was awesome. Actually, he would come up in the people I would argue was a mentor for me at some point. And I said to him, I want to apply for this job when it comes up. I understand there's going to be weaknesses in my interview because I'm an electrical engineer doing design work. I'm not an engine guy. Yeah. Everyone who did mechanical engineering learned how engines run in university. I didn't. I didn't ever learn how to use computer-aided design, how to use CAD. I had to learn all of that on the job. And I'm a quick learner. That's something I always think is a skill of mine. And so I said to this guy, Barney, I said, can you give me a mock interview for this role? And then we can go back and find all my weaknesses, and I can try and fill in those.
Work on them,
fill in those spots before I apply for the real thing. And he said, yeah. So we had a practice interview, and it did highlight my weaknesses, of course. And he showed me some traces of race car speed, and he says, all right, what's this knee point? What's happening there? What would happen if we did this? What if you were in a vacuum? What if there was no aero on the car? What, all these kind of stuff that I'd never considered. And it was all about critical thinking. And in Formula One, most of the interviews are just about engineering principles. And we can touch on that later, actually. I think as something I'm always doing is giving people advice for interviews in Formula One. Anyway, so I ended up getting the job in the team, and I was working on subsystem pass-off. So we were approving oil pumps, fuel systems, ERS packs, ERS modules, all of that kind of stuff. Eventually, I started running engines. And I could see my career going where I wanted it to. And then I'm trying to think of podcast-friendly ways of discussing this.
No,
there's nothing horrific happened. It's just that my career plateaued slightly for various reasons. Yeah, and a relationship with basically a relationship with my boss wasn't the best. It happens in life. And at that point, Red Bull had approached me twice previously, and Ferrari once about working for them. But I hadn't, because I was really happy where I was. And if you're happy in your work, like I said earlier, then you don't need anything else. So I stayed where I was, and then the third time Red Bull approached me, I wasn't as happy, and I thought, let's do something, and I took the opportunity, and it worked out really well.
Look at you now.
It's been good.
Just going back a little bit, how long did it take for you to kind of, I guess, get from the point where you've identified what skills or areas that you need to work on to the point of being like, okay, you know what, I feel confident to kind of go for this role? I
mean, I'm telling you this out of interest, but for everyone, like anyone watching, it's so personal. It's so personal. For me, my weakness was probably appreciating internal combustion and exactly how that worked. Exactly. Like, I understood engines well enough from working on those motorbikes. I changed timing chains and changed shims and cams and all this stuff. I've done that before, but I'd never really understood how combustion works. And so I had to learn that. Even through studying electrical engineering, at university, I used to watch the EEV blog, this Australian guy who's just such a character. For 12 years, I've been watching his videos about electronics and understanding how things worked. And then when it came to combustion, I was like, right, what do I do? And then people like Engineering Explained, I think Jason is his name, this American guy who has such good videos. So I actually, funny enough, there's a woman I work with now, Nikki, really cool. She does data. And so her background in engines is basically non-existent. And we were talking about how she can learn more about them. And I recommended his videos because they're really good. And so I learned about a lot of combustion through that, and then, more niche stuff. And then when it gets to Formula One specific things, it's very, very difficult.
Really?
Because there's not a lot of stuff out there about how these things work, because the quality of your combustion could be the milliseconds that make you win.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're limited on power of an electrical system, for example, you have 120 kilowatts, you're allowed to deploy on your K, that's it. Then yeah, cool, we can get 1% efficiency here, or 0.1% efficiency where we can. We're operating above 90% efficiency anyway. There's not a lot left.
No.
Whereas in your combustion, that's when it can be chaotic or not, and there's a lot more time to find. And so yeah, then it was a case of going around finding people. And so I went to the performance team, and I made friends with them from knowing them in the dynos, and I went and chatted, and I said, oh, have you got 5 minutes? I really want to learn how this works.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I've always, I wasn't just taking, if people ever wanted to learn about electronics, I would offer the same. And even now in the team that I'm in at Red Bull, I think it's similarly through most of F1, there just aren't a lot of electrical engineers. So when I was at Mercedes and we had quite a small electronics team, there was 8 of us, maybe. That's 8 people in about 800 who were electronics engineers, right? And so it means that it's difficult to move, but on the flip side, it means you can provide a lot of value, because a lot of people don't fully get the intricacies of the electronic system. And especially with us moving into 2026, where there's huge rule changes which make the electronics so much more significant, or the electrical part of the power system, of the power unit so much more significant, then the value of being an electrical engineer
tenfold.
And so I was always conscious of that
as
well, always conscious of that, which is something I've always maybe played to I think is a fair word.
Absolutely, it's a strength.
Exactly. I've leaned into it a lot, and so I've always argued that I can provide that value to your team.
Oh, that's incredible. So now you're trackside at Red Bull, which is really exciting.
It's
Congratulations.
brilliant. Thank you.
What's it like applying everything that you've learned over the years in real time, high pressure, things are happening? What's that experience like?
Intense. Very intense. So quite fortunately, I'd worked a lot so you've seen, I don't know what they call them to the outside world, the race control rooms, maybe.
Okay.
So you've maybe seen photos of 20 TV screens on the wall, desks on like a tiered stage almost, and all these kind of engineers sitting there. I'd done a lot of work in the Mercedes HVP equivalent of that room, at the track support office, we called it, and as the energy recovery systems support. So if anything, because like I said, everyone at the track, they're not electrical engineers, and they're great. They're really good engineers. Everyone I've worked with in my career generally has been fantastic. I'm super fortunate about that. That's one of the great things about F1. Generally, people are quite good. And so if something went wrong with the energy recovery system, they generally could deal with it. But if they couldn't, they'd drop us a message, can you help us? And if everything went wrong, it was the easiest job in the world. You're chilling the whole weekend, you're watching Sky Sports, but you've got data in front of you. It's like ultra premium Sky Sports, basically. Brilliant, really cool. And because at that point you're a fan. I was a fan at that point in Formula One, so it was just mega. You get the radios of the drivers, you get the data of the engines, and you get to watch it on Sky.
That's amazing.
So if nothing goes wrong, brilliant weekend. When things go wrong, very stressful. I used to wear an Apple Watch when I was in the track support office, and I just, out of interest, I'd look at what my heart rate was at the start of the race, and it was often over 100. Like, I was just sitting there, like, because if something went wrong at that point, it was catastrophic. And we poured. And I say we, as I think everyone in F1 pours their blood, sweat, and tears to everything you do. Everything you do. If you don't love the sport, you just can't work in it. It's so difficult. I couldn't imagine putting in what I do if I didn't love it. And so everyone's so passionate. Everyone wants to win. And it's a lot on the line. It's a lot on the line. So sorry to actually answer your question. Sorry, remind me. So you're saying how...
What's it like applying everything that you've learned over the years, like in your toolkit, into like real time, high pressure, having to react so quickly? What's that?
So the reason I mentioned that track sport is that I essentially had a kind of run up. So it wasn't like going from 0 to hero straight away. Thank God. Like if it was, that would have been crazy. So I had some experience, at least around how do you talk on a radio? How that's something that no one talks about. How do you efficiently talk on a radio to someone? You want to make it clear who you're talking to, make your message clear and brief, and then get out.
Dip.
Exactly. GTFO, let's go. You don't want to hold up that line. And so those kind of soft skills, or those track specific skills, I'd learned from being in the track sport office. So that was easier. And then when it comes to actually being at the track, I don't know how to answer your question. It's really intense. It's scary, because you're sitting in the middle of a world championship winning team, and even if you're not, you're sitting in the middle of a team that's never more than a couple of seconds behind the people who are going to win the world championship of the fastest and, in my opinion, best racing series in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's really scary. And you're suddenly surrounded by people that you've seen on TV and around, a lot of big, strong personalities. And it's really intimidating, but you just do what, you have to lean back on the fact and take reassurance from the fact that you're not there randomly.
No.
You're there because you've put in your work and because you've been chosen and you've put yourself forward and they felt that you were good enough. And so you can always take a breath and appreciate that if I wasn't good enough, I wouldn't be here. And so let me just do what I know how to do and try and do the best I can and do everything I can to keep that race car going.
And now you're traveling, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Your Instagram is, I love it. My guilty pleasure. I'm just swiping away.
I appreciate that. My friends call me the king of side quests.
Yeah, that's it.
It
I'm like, where is he? What's he up to?
A few days ago, I was digging a hole in my mate's garden with a digger. That was the most fun thing I've done in a long time. It was mega. Strongly recommend it to anyone. Get in a small digger and just dig a hole.
Just dig a
brilliant.
hole.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Must be quite relaxing. So I know that so you're traveling, it can be high pressure out on track. What are some things that you like to do to kind of unwind and just get back to just Billy?
Yeah. So I started running because So I used to box for years. I love boxing. I think it's a brilliant sport. And I used to gym loads. And so fitness is the answer to your question. So I started picking up running more. And what's fantastic about racing in F1 is that you can go running on the circuits. They're almost always just over 5K.
Nice.
And there's always an exercise period, which the FIA have for you to go running in. So you can just bring your gym kit, go for a run the track, and it's mega. And you get to see the track. You get to know this is what corner 10 looks like.
Yeah.
This is what this curb. This is why everyone complains about this curb. It's massive. Or you can see it. You're standing on it, and you go for a run, and it's So fitness, I think, is the main thing. There's nothing else to unwind with. Well, I love food. There's a group of us who go out and always try and find local food as well.
Oh, I love that.
That's quite fun. Yeah.
So outside of engineering, you're into music.
Yeah, big time.
DJing.
Yeah.
Such a creative switch up, I think.
Yeah.
It's like an outlet.
Yeah.
How does that complement kind of the work that you're doing? How is that going for you?
Yeah, I guess for me it's the way that I can stay in contact with my musical background. My dad played the saxophone when I was growing up. I used to busk playing the saxophone. I've come from quite a musical family in that regard, and I like to stay connected with that through DJing. But I think there are parallels. When you're DJing, and at least if you're doing like high pressure, like I mentioned to you earlier before the podcast, I'm in a competition soon. And that is a DJ competition, like back-to-back battle, and that is gonna be high pressure, switching up, being quick, and that, like, the pressure that I get used to at work is advantageous. Because there's like 200 people around you, staring at you, watching you, waiting for what you're gonna do, listening to everything you're doing. But it's like, when I'm in F1, there's millions, so it's all right.
It's fine. I can
that sounds so cocky.
No,
I don't mean it like that at all. But it's just you get used to the pressure, and so you get to deal with it well. But I love music, and I think they complement each other well because they're both so creative. It's just one is creative musically, and one is creative with problem solving. And I think being a creative problem solver is what makes you really good.
I love that. We're about to kind of wrap up. But before we let you go, do you have any advice for any students or early career engineers who want to kind of follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, 100%. I always have people message me on LinkedIn, and if you want to message me on LinkedIn,
please do.
Yeah, please do. Because I always reply to every single message, and I will continue to do my best to do so. It might not be quick, but I'll do it. And one of the most common questions I get is, how do you get into F1? It's so broad, it's so difficult to answer. But generally, I say that, especially now after the popularity of Netflix Drive to Survive and the popularity of F1 as a sport, which has just increased a lot in recent years, it's difficult. It is more difficult than it was when I applied. And even then it was difficult. And so you need to find a way to stand out. Everyone who applies is going to have a decent degree. Everyone who applies is probably going to be quite interested. Everyone who applies is going to be passionate. So what can you do that's different? What can you do to make you the person they want? And I always say that the best place to start is with extracurricular things. Do something else. So most people do Formula Student. Do that and do something else. Do something different. If it's making pizza on the weekend, be the best at it and explain to them how you think 64.8% hydration of your pizza is the reason that it's the best pizza in the Midlands. Do something. Just do something and be different. Have have passion projects. One of the projects I worked on, and I mentioned now, I think on my CV, was I worked with a guy and we built a steering wheel for a simulator. I did the electronics and he did all the mechanical design, and that was a passion project, and that was cool, and you learn loads doing things like that.
Yeah.
And it adds value, and the reason that people care about those things is because you learn so much doing them. It makes you a better candidate. So do something extracurricular, stand out.
Yeah, I love that.
That's my advice.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Billy, it's been an absolute pleasure to
Likewise.
have you on the podcast and have, you know, a conversation with you. I think for anyone who's listening, please do reach out to Billy. I think you're the go-to person. I say, like, if someone wants to get into Formula One, I'm like, just message Billy.
Thank you.
Tell him I sent you.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. But you've had such an incredible career today, and we wish you the best of luck with Red Bull and with your DJ. Can't wait to see.
Yeah, it's just a hobby, but thank you.
It's 1 out of 10 side quests.
It's a side quest that I enjoy. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And to our listeners, if you have enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share, and check out more stories from the world of motorsports and engineering.